some guys in the 90s did this study where they looked at how much money Bill Gates was making at the time. I mean, just sort of like a ridiculous study, right? And they figured out that the guy made, on average, $300 per second. I wish I made $300 per second. I mean, that would be mighty nice, you know? If I could earn $300 per second for just one day, you know, that would be fantastic. I'd be set for life, right? Anyway, these guys figured out that that's how much money Bill Gates was making. $300 every second. And so they theorized from this. They said that, you know, well, for Bill Gates, he's making so much money that, you know, if he's walking down the street and he sees $300 lying on the floor, you know, just on the street there, on the sidewalk, it's not worth his while to bend down and pick it up. Right? Because he's spending the time spent picking up the money, you know, is just not worth it, right? And of course, you know, you listen to that and the obvious logical fallacy, okay? Because first of all, the fact that he's making $300 per second means that he's making, that's an average. It's not that every second he gets ka-ching, ka-ching, $300. No, he gets like big checks every day or month or week or year or whenever the fuck, right? And it's just averaged out per second. So there's no lost cost of opportunity here. If he bends down to pick up the $300, he's still getting that income stream of $300 per second, right? So there's that logical fallacy on the one hand. But on the other hand, it led me to think of something else that I've noticed, especially with Patreon, right? See, there are a lot of people who criticize me for having Patreon. Okay, now Patreon, you know, has been, you guys on Patreon have been very kind to me. Because of you guys, I've been able to get new gear. And you know, the lenses that you are seeing this video on right now, they're from the gear that you have bought and paid for. And I thank you mightily for it, right? But there's a point here. See, because these guys have said in the comment section, what have you, they're saying, well, you get money from ad revenue and you yourself in your real life, you have money, right? Presumably, which I do, but not that much, but I do all right. But so they say, why do you have Patreon, right? Like noblesse oblige kind of thing. Kind of like, ooh, I have so much money that why should I stoop to do Patreon? Which is a really curious thing until you start to think about it a little bit more. See. Now, let me give you a little background in my own history. See, when I graduated from college, I was dirt poor. Didn't have any money, right? When I graduated from college, I moved out to Hollywood to try to make it as a screenwriter, and it was goddamn hard. And for a long time, I didn't have any money. I was flat broke most of the time, right? Until, you know, things started happening. I started making a lot of money. But during the time I was poor, you know, it got to a point where I didn't have money for food, okay? I mean, I was working at this temp job at Disney, at the Disney Corporation, right? And this temp job at the Disney Corporation, it paid me not that much. And I got paid at the end of the month. And so during the month, I remember very clearly, like 10 days before the end of the month, when I'd get paid, right? I realized that I was running out of money, and the money I had left, well, I decided that I needed X amount of money for gas, for the car, to get to the job, right? And then I needed another bit of money for cigarettes, because at the time I was basically living off of cigarettes, and I needed cigarettes in order to write. It helped me in the writing process. It was essential, as a matter of fact, in the writing process, right? So I needed gas, cigarettes, and then there was this little bit of money left over, and that was supposed to be for food for the next 10 days, right? So I went down to the supermarket and I looked around trying to figure out what I could buy with this minimal amount of money. It was something like $5 and change. I'm not kidding, right? And that's how broke I was. And $5 and change, and I looked around the supermarket and I finally found this bag of rice, right? This bag of white rice, like a 5-pound bag, and I could afford that. And so I bought that 5-pound bag of rice, and I ate that for the next 10 days. I ate that rice, and see, I went up to the Burger King. I couldn't even afford the Burger King, but I would go up there, and I'd seal these little packets of mayonnaise and ketchup, and by the fistful, right? And I'd use the mayonnaise and ketchup and squirt them into my rice that I'd cook every night, which is my lone meal for the day, right? And that's what I'd eat. I'd eat, you know, basically Rice with Thousand Island dressing. That was my meal for 10 days. It wasn't fun, right? It was not fun at all, right? You know, later I made money, right? Later I made money, and when I made money, and what happens to a lot of guys is that I made money and I thought, oh man, I'm so fucking smart. I made like a whole bunch of money. I'm just so clever, and I'm never gonna have to worry about money ever again, right? That's what I thought. And the Bee Gees famously called it first success. And what happened, of course, is that, see, I ran out of money. By 2001, I was near flat broke once again. Yeah, I owned a car, I had a dog, and just a few $1,000s in my bank account, and my career was sort of dead, and things were just not looking up for me. But then I got very lucky, exceedingly lucky. I mean, almost lottery winning kind of lucky. And, you know, I got back on top again. And the second time I got back on top, I knew that I had to take care of my money. I knew that making money is an issue of luck more than hard work. You can work your ass off and never accumulate much money. And the proof of this, the proof that earning a lot of money is an issue of luck, you look around the world, I'd venture to guess that maybe half the population is busting their ass. Half the working age population, they're just killing themselves to put food on the table, right? If working hard were all that were necessary to make a lot of money, then that half the world would be multimillionaires now, wouldn't they? Right? You see what I'm saying? It's an issue of luck. And once you understand this, once you understand that making money is a matter of luck, as wise people tend to realize, well, then you start to care about every money-making opportunity that presents itself to you. And that's when you should be thinking to yourself at every step of the way that, is there a money-making opportunity? Because money goes away. Money slips through your finger. You can have $1 million in a checking account, and it can vanish in less than a year. I've seen it happen to other guys I know, because I knew a lot of guys in Hollywood, you know, going up through the ranks as I was, and I heard stories, and they'd actually tell me, some of them, you know, how the money just slipped through their fingers. They'd get all this money, and then it would just go away in like taxes and rent and booze and coke and this and that, girls, trips, and in a year $1 million would be gone, right? And it happens. It happens all the time. And you think it won't. You think that with $1 million you're going to live forever and ever and you're going to be hunky-dory. No, it don't happen that way. I'm here to tell you. And so what happens is that once you realize this, once you really understand how easy money can go away and how easy the money well, that money spigot can dry up, then you start paying attention to every single money-making opportunity and you grab it. And that's what you should do. When you're walking down the street, no matter how many zeros you have in your bank account, you see $300 lying on the sidewalk, you stoop to pick them up. And don't ever hesitate. And don't feel bad about it. If there's a possibility to make a little bit of extra money, and you're not hurting anybody, presumably. I mean, you're not doing a crime, you're not stealing or anything like that. You're just offering something to people, and presumably they want it, you offer it. And if they say no, they decline, well, so what? You know, that's that. It was a fair situation, right? You're offering something, and if somebody wants it, great. And if they don't, that's fine too. But the point I'm trying to make is that never feel embarrassed or ashamed of picking up those $300 that are lying on the sidewalk. Because you would be surprised that many times those $300 might be the last $300 you ever make. Because it happens. It happens all the time. It happens all the time that a guy is doing real well for a while, and then the money dries up, okay? And sometimes that little side business that you were doing, you know, that little side business winds up being the only business that you have. You got to be smart. You got to be smart, and you have to be humble and recognize that good fortune can come your way and good fortune can go away, okay? And it goes away and it won't come back, all right? I mean, a lot of guys think that, you know, when they're making a lot of money, that this gravy train is going to last forever. Oh, it doesn't last forever. And once it goes away, they try to chase after it, thinking that they'll catch it, and they never catch it. They never do, okay? The gravy train can go away and you will never be able to run fast enough to catch up with it and grab it once again. It left you behind, and that's that. And so you have to go in other directions, new directions. You see what I'm saying? I mean, I'm talking a little bit abstractly here, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to put across. You should always be thinking of opportunities, creating new opportunities. You have a gravy train that's working out fine for you. Terrific, super, excellent. But even if you have a great gravy train that is just solid as a rock, you still should be thinking of creating additional gravy trains, additional sources of revenue, additional businesses, no matter how small or modest, no matter how whatever. Don't leave $300 on the sidewalk. Don't feel that you're doing so well that you can afford to leave that money on the table. Don't ever think that. Because I'll bet you anything, I'll bet you $300, that if I dropped $300 in front of Bill Gates, I'll bet you those $300 that he'd stoop to pick them up, put them in his back pocket, and smile, thinking to himself, I found $300. Yay me.